the important thing is something that we mentioned early on in what I was doing here in one of the videos, is it's building a marketing partnership early on. And you're early on, but develop a relationship based on credibility and what you could show them that you're doing and where you're going with it. If you go to these, for example, you go to these photo shows, Photo Plus or WPPI, PPA, or whatever, and you can see these small manufacturers, they're looking to get exposed. So it's you could approach it based on whatever you could cleverly come up with about your work, who you are, what you're doing, or what venue you're going to have that could really, help them. And and once again, like I was saying, it's a matter of what credibility, what level what you're asking for, and what you could offer them.
I don't have what, Robert? I'm
No,
sorry.
you know how many venues are out there that are potential to try, and how many potential, you know,
I
places to.
tried at least, let's see, I tried at least four. I was rejected
You
from
tried
all of
four
them.
out of the millions that are doing it.
Well, around here.
You know how many publishers after
Oh,
selling,
I haven't.
and
I have.
what I'm saying is after I've published and had sold. I mean, I've sold over 500,000 copies of these books over the years with different publishers and everything else. And then you would think that somebody would just grab them and say, "Yeah, publish some with us." No, it changes. Things shift, and I have to work harder at doing it. Things change and shift around, but I'm not going to give up with it. Original, intention with this is well, first of all, we're trying to shape some new things and ideas and so forth. And as you could see, not having to do directly with this is some of these audio interviews that I have with some really great photographers. And unfortunately, a number of them have passed away, and there are other ones that are still alive that are coming up. And we wanted to just from kind of a unique type of background and the way we're trying to shape things is let these other things evolve from these. So we have some really good ones coming up, and I don't know uh, how if you guys have watched it, then what you thought of the first two that we put up. So while you're here, let me ask you any comments on the first two videos, or I should say, they're videos because Jean-Michel added their images to what we just had as far as the original audio interviews.
As I wrote to you, I loved the one on Arnold Newman. Uh, he was my mentor and friend, and just to hear his voice again was wonderful, and also to see his work.
Oh,
So
good. Right.
I was moved by that.
Myself, it was really great. And he did the preface for my book, The Natural Beauty Farber Nudes book.
Hmm.
And him and his wife I became friendly with in New York and so forth. And for me too, he was more like a fatherly figure to me. So
Hmm.
it was quite interesting. Um, and so when I had the opportunity to do that, and there's a good number of other people, there's lots of other people, but unfortunately, I don't have access right now to all the audios. So we have more coming up that, and if there's, and we wanted to follow it up with things that we're doing with the auditorium and having some people into the auditorium. There's so many experiences I've had with marketing that the whole idea of what we've been doing with the coaching centers, taking from the experiences that I had and thinking of different ways to market yourself, think of ways think out of the box. And have I experienced because a lot of these people that are contemporaries, peers of mine growing up in photography, that I noticed what they were doing because as I was moving along, I was always moving along in a different direction. So, as an example, when I started getting involved in the very first time, and I talk about it in some of those videos online, in stock photography, hardly anyone else was doing anything with the stock photography. when I started getting involved with publishing, hardly anyone else was doing the publishing. And all of the people that I've been known and been friendly with and everything else, their focus was always their commercial assignments. They got a commercial assignments, and that's what they worked on. And they weren't involved. Most of them were not involved in anything having to do with it. And then when the economy started tanking at certain points in the 80s, then again in the 90s, and then things were up, and then of course 2008 and blah blah blah. There were photographers that had all their eggs in one basket by only being interested or involved commercially. So I have a lot of people are friends or whatever that stayed that way, and they were affected by it. So when I started getting asked to do gallery openings or gallery exhibitions, what did I do to really kind of make them, enhance them, to get some extra mileage out of it? I started including different different people I've been involved with. So the things I've done in this past year, had to do with a number of exhibitions. And as an example, one big one was the show in Italy. Well, that's more into it, but let me start with the museum. So this exhibition I had with the museum for 7 months now, with the Vero Beach Museum of Art, which is really such it's a small town museum, but it's such a beautiful museum. And it's actually one of the largest visited small museums in the United States with that. And there's something online of a new building they're building up. That's great. But anyway, so what I did is I contacted, having this exhibition, I figured, okay, what am I doing? And the exhibition is going to have prints from Canon, and I'm going to have some Chromolux metal prints. So I let them get involved. And not only let them get involved, I asked them to get involved. And they sponsor, by doing that, they wound up sponsoring a book that would be in the museum store, and the book is Fashion to Fine Art. So the story about that was the Deterioration series and the classic fashion, and they paid for a printing of it, of this book. In other words, without getting into all this great detail, which I can if you ask me questions about it, but it really, it just really, one thing leads to the next, that leads to the next. So when I had the show, I wound up doing this myself. They have a certain amount of money for a budget for the catalog. They have money for the PR, and they did great press, really good press for South Florida through Palm Beach to here, and with NBC out of Palm Beach and everything else. And they took care of all that press. But I didn't leave it at that. I figured, aside from Chromolux and aside from creating something that would be good for the museum store, what I did is I also asked, I asked the people that I was involved with because of the Italian company for the Italian thing, to create these different pieces, which led to a whole other thing, which opened up a number of things, but a number of other ways. And it's too much detail to get into. And once again, if you ask me some things about it, I will get into it. But the idea is I also wanted to contact galleries I'm involved with. The museum, of course, is great. They're all nonprofit and they don't sell things directly. So the number one thing that I want to do is be able to sell things directly. The galleries usually take 50%. I'd rather sell it directly and let them not take 50%. So in my immediate area, I didn't want a gallery handling anything, so I could be referred to selling it directly. But I got in touch with all the galleries that were out of my neighborhood and the people I'm involved with in other areas of Florida. And they were like Holden Luntz out of Palm Beach and Cavalier out of Palm Beach. And because of that, they appreciated the press I was going to get, because they would that exposure would enhance what they're doing. So because of that, they started promoting some of the things I was doing and also put up a conflicting exhibition based on that. And I wound up selling pieces from them that I probably wouldn't have sold. Take advantage of it and really get out there with your own things. But you have to think creatively.
And you said that Chromolux and what was it, uh, Canon, made your prints for you. What did they get in return? I mean, didn't they ask
But,
for something?
um, well, they what they asked for is what I've been working on for the last 50 years, is my name using their work.
Hmm. So you already have to have a reputation before they
Yes,
would.
but I started with companies before I had a reputation. I remember clearly when I was first starting, as in the very beginning, I remember Balcar, the strobes, Balcar.
I use them.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, I remember Astrolight and Balcar. I remember when I was just starting my career, I went to the bank and got a loan out in order to buy studio strobes. And within a year later, these companies were offering it to me for nothing. Said I would use it. Why? Because I was involved in marketing and promoting and getting involved with other companies and getting the word out. So if you're having, as an example, I told somebody who's part of it, they asked me about scanners and everything else, and they said they found this certain scanner, and they said, but it's quite expensive. What do you suggest? And I said, well, why don't you get in touch with them, the company directly, because this was through a retailer that was selling it. I said, it's a smaller company. Get in touch with them directly and tell them I'm having an exhibition. I have this much exposure or whatever it is. And you could get any level of promotion behind you, or should I say support behind you, whether the promotion is, well, if you use our scanners, we'll help promote your exhibition or your work. If you use our scanner, we're proud to have you use it, so we'll give you a special discount, a special price. Or if you use our scanner, we love what you're doing and we want you to have this model scanner to use if you keep promoting it. My point is, there's different levels of what you can get from these different manufacturers, and it's at any point. And if it's not good enough, of course, you always try for the highest level. And if you don't think you could reach it, or your negotiation with them is not to that, well, perhaps they'll just wind up at least give you a special price for it. And you could, but the important thing is something that we mentioned early on in what I was doing here in one of the videos, is it's building a marketing partnership early on. And you're early on, even though you've been around for a while, you're early on. So if you could only get to that earlier stage, use that, but develop a relationship based on credibility and what you could show them that you're doing and where you're going with it. And if the smaller the company, the more they'll want to use you. But of course, the less they could afford. So they might be able to afford something that you wouldn't even expect, and it'd be uh, a nice surprise that you didn't think you'd get. So the point being, it's all about building the relationships. And when you have a bigger show, you could go to even bigger people as your career grows. And as your credibility grows, you could ask for more, or you go to larger people, and so forth. But the thing is, approach them and think of who you could use and how they might be able to benefit from you promoting their work, their product.
Hey, Robert,
So, but
what
it
about going with
sounded
the angle of asking them to try equipment, like, or they have new equipment coming out, you want to help them test their new equipment, going that direction?
Right. Well, definitely. And the big companies already have that lined up. So you can join Canon, if you could do it. Uh, like with Canon, they have their CPS program where they do loaner equipment for professionals or whatever. So that's already there. And they have different levels of that. Some people have to pay for it or whatever. but there's different things. Nikon has it. They all have this kind of thing,
Sure.
some way of a testing of equipment. Because any way that you could develop a relationship with any of them is great. And if you go to these, for example, you go to these photo shows, you could walk around these you remember like Photo Plus or whatever's about, or WPPI, PPA, or whatever, and you can see these small manufacturers, they're looking to get exposed. So it's, you could approach it based on whatever you could cleverly come up with about your work, who you are, what you're doing, or what venue you're going to have that could really, help them. And and once again, like I was saying, it's a matter of what um, what credibility, what level what you're asking for, and what you could offer them. So what we've done is we did this. This is how we stretch this out. So basically, I wanted to, it's 90 pages of this that we created, and it, it it did what's in the museum, but the idea, there's a quote from Arnold Newman that's in the book, and one from Horace, and then the table of contents, and then a unique process of dye sublimation metal. So just to give you an idea, we did a narrative of my work and how it evolved. So it's a whole story, and how women's art, and about nudes and everything else. So in other words, instead of just doing it on what the exhibition is about, which is the classic fashion, and then the deterioration series, which they've been involved with, Chromalex has been involved with me because I've been really using that quite a bit for the deterioration. So we have this whole thing, Chromalex, a unique process, dye sublimation. So we put this in so they could use it, they could promote it, and they'll want to pay for it, and it's a promotion for them. And the promotion is not only in a museum, it'll live on afterwards as a published book. And then after that, depending on what I want to do with it, it'll go into this, because a digital book, because we also offered it to other galleries in the beginning for the logo of the galleries. But here we have Canon, even though it's Chromalex that paid for the printed book. Canon, Chromalex, Moab, Legion, and we have another one that is all about the paper, about Moab and Legion. So there I am, really kind of stretching it out in that way. So this is done actually exclusively for the museum store, because it features that, and it's the other thing. So the idea is that you do it for that, and this is the idea what we're talking about. This generates an idea for you to promote yourself and go forward with it beyond the museum. Because the idea is, you could say it's self-published, but all we want is, we want the company to pay for it. We want the company to distribute the idea of the digital one. We want to be able to promote it to all the other galleries by putting their logo on it, and all the other people we're involved with, including Canon printers, and and uh, and and to take it from there to something else. But the idea of it was just for the museum thing. That's it, and that's where it came out of. What I'm saying is, think much further than that exhibition that you're doing, and use that thought. For example, if you have a relationship with a company, you could go in and tell the gallery that you'd like to be with, I have X amount of people behind me that could help make this successful through their press, through their products, and through their endorsement.
I think
So
this makes total sense at your level, Robert. At my level,
I was at your level,
well,
and I had to start somewhere.
I have experienced some of the things you described, because Karen was asking earlier, putting a show together and then, submitting it. I did that. I did with Polaroid. I wrote Polaroid Japan. I sent them some of the images I worked on. And to my great surprise, they sent me the film, the developing, the projector. They provided all the shipping back and forth to Tokyo. And they said, we want 30 images of this kind and of that kind. And my show, Karen, was not near finished. I only had about half of the show ready. And what they wanted for the second half of the show, I had zero idea. I had to rethink everything of the process of what I was doing. So my show wasn't ready. So this is what you were talking about earlier. But then they liked the idea. And so they sent the film, they paid for the shipping. So sometimes just submitting an idea with a few of the examples of what you're working on is enough to intrigue them. So I get that, Robert, because I did it. I, for some reason, personally could not repeat that experience.
Well, if you got that first experience with that,
That was years
then
ago.
you're on your way. Well, it doesn't matter if it's years ago,
Yeah, but it
because
didn't
that,
repeat. It didn't repeat.
well, it didn't repeat, but you know that it's out there. So you
Yeah,
can't talk
it
me
is.
into, that it just, what you just did was the same kind of thing that I did in the very beginning. But you know
Because
what?
I had no name at that time. I was
I didn't
pretty,
have a name either. We were on the
yeah,
same
I
level.
wasn't known. So it takes a lot of gumption to put yourself out there,
Mhm.
even when you don't have a complete show put together, and many rejections, many rejections.
Well, you're not alone, but the
Yeah.
difference is some people keep going and they don't give up, and it doesn't matter about rejections. Uh, and and the thing is, what happened to you is such a firsthand great experience that should have given you something that, hey, if I was able to do this then, I'm sure I could keep going with it with other people, other companies. And
Well,
there's no,
I did actually, I did.
oh, well, okay.
But it's interesting because circumstances completely change now. Uh, and I presented the same way. I did another show, which was across the border from San Diego, it's Tijuana. I submitted a proposal to the Tijuana Museum called the Secut, Centro Cultural de Tijuana.
Uh-huh.
Again, the project was not, I had just a few prints, but I brought the idea to them and they liked it and they funded it. So they paid for the framing, they paid for the installation of the show. They made it a bicultural show because there was a show as well in San Diego, and they paid for everything. And they paid for 2 sets of prints, so that means I had my own set and they had their own set.
Well, you're telling me everything that you're confirming that what we're
Right,
saying is,
true, Robert. But ever since then, zero. And I have offered the same shows locally, and it's been one rejection after another. And I don't even understand why. And I'm thinking, well, maybe, I don't have an explanation for that. I'm thinking maybe my work belongs to that era and not it's not relevant to,
well,
I
it's not
don't know,
relevant
but
to somebody you're showing it to, but it's relevant to somebody else. And yeah,
I wish because
but it
I
keeps going, things keep changing, the thing, styles and everything else. And it just keep changing. But everything you said is, well,
I agree. I agree with you. I agree with you. But
so
lately,
when's the last time you tried like that?
in the last 2 or 3 years, I've tried all the local places I could think of. The Oceanside Museum, the Art Center in Escondido, uh, all the local places I could think of. I couldn't talk them into anything.
But you know how many thousands and millions of
I don't
venues
have
are
what?
out there to try?
I don't have what, Robert? I'm sorry.
No, you know how many venues are out there that are potential to try, and how many potential, you know,
I
places to.
tried at least, let's see, 1, 2, 3. 4. I tried at least 4. I was rejected.
You
from
tried
all of
4
them.
out of the millions that are doing it?
Well, around here.
You know how many publishers after selling? And,
I haven't published
uh,
any.
what I'm saying is after I've published and had sold, I've sold over 500,000 copies of these books over the years with different publishers and everything else. And then you would think that somebody would just grab that and say, yeah, publish some with us. No, it changes. Things shift, and I have to work harder at doing it. I have to present it. I have a new book project that I've been working on, and this is something that I really want to do. And I thought somebody would just run with it or just grab onto it and know they want sample chapters of it. They want something I've never been asked for. They only go by that. Things change and shift around, but I'm not going to give up with it, you know. And then I got something, and there's like certain magazines that I'd love to be or produce a portfolio. Well, if you keep getting yourself out there, and as an example, there's a very slick magazine that came out a couple of years ago in Monte Carlo, Monaco, and all of a sudden, this is another example of things we're talking about for this. And all of a sudden, the magazine saw one of my images because they were doing something about Saint-Tropez in their summer edition about Saint-Tropez. And they saw one of my images that were taken in Saint-Tropez. So they got in touch with me to use the image. I thought, well, that's great. It's a beautiful, slick magazine, beautifully reproduced, great distribution, international distribution, but all over France and especially concentrated in the south of France. And there, as I said, you know what, this is really great for me, especially because I have representation in France or any place else at Sing. So I told Jean-Michel, I said, I want to get in touch with these people aside from this and let them know, about my other, or they know about it probably, but approach them and tell them I want them. So it just turned into a couple of weeks ago. They confirmed that they want to do for their summer issue, which is great because it's all south of France with all the slick and wealthy money there, that they're to do a cover story with the deterioration series and 10 pages inside. Now, they didn't approach me for that. I'm doing exactly what I'm telling you why we're here together talking about it, is go beyond it and take advantage of it and go after something that they didn't approach it for and embellish on it. Now, if I went after that magazine separately, a year ago, whatever it was, they probably said, well, we'll see, well, whatever. So what you're saying, I don't care who you went after, it's just a matter of their timing, the right time, the right
There
place.
you go. There you go. There you go.
Right. So with that said, and what you said to me, there's no reason to stop there with 4 when there's 4 million people you could approach on the outside. So there. So anyway.
You know very well that you don't just approach any gallery at random. You pick a gallery that's going to support the kind of work that you're showing.
Well, of course.
Pick a gallery that shows fashion with a kind of documentary work. I do. And frankly, I don't know where these places are where they show the kind of work that would support my work.
Well, look online. They're all online. You could see it. Or if you go to an art fair, go not to sell yourself, but to explore and see who's showing what kind of work. But it's easy to look at it. Go to the, just look at APAC. They have their photography galleries, and Paris Photo, look at their list of galleries and go through the list and look and say, wow, look at that. They probably really love what I'm doing. And what you're doing is great. Let me tell you something that's really, those things that, I think they're really special. So you have to work. You just need to do the work having to do with that promotion. Any galleries that you see that you would like to be in, the thing is, if you try to spread yourself strategically over galleries, then pick the cities that you want to cover, the major cities and all, and approach them. So in every possible way.